Mhm.
So, hey everyone, it's Angie and Zen. So
Jen.
we're doing our episode number 4, and this topic for today is the women who date with a funnel. Funnel, a funnel.
Okay.
The word funnel for me is kind of funny because I'm in sales, so I understand what that means. But it
Mm,
just means dating multiple people at the same time. So it's a fancy
mm,
word for like saying, hey, I'm not only going to date you, I'm going to date a lot of people until I figure out whether or not I want to be with you exclusively.
mm,
So I'm in a separate Facebook group where it's only women, and
mm,
the two organizers of this group, they really do preach that to prevent early attachment, because women get attached pretty fast.
mm,
Women should date multiple men at the same time.
mm.
What are your thoughts on that? Since you're a guy, tell me what you think about that.
Um, Before I even would get into the psychology, I'm all about, again, I'm a total gamer nerd. So I'm like, yeah, what's like the min max? What is the most effective way to do something and get maximum results without necessarily killing myself? So yeah, why wouldn't you talk to multiple people? I think most people you meet, you're probably not even going to be compatible with them. You'll have a conversation. Maybe you're attracted to them, and a difference crops up that you probably can't reconcile, whether it's political or religious, or you're vegan and they're not. So something more than likely, there's a decent chance it will pop up, and that connection will just fall off naturally. So I don't see any disadvantage to talking to multiple people.
All right, so you kind of just explained a couple of I don't know, in our society, I feel like we have certain ideals that if I said them, you would understand them. So like first one is everything is a numbers game. You understand that phrase?
Right. And that's just sales. Like I have sales experience too. You're a realtor, so that
Yeah.
makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, it's just
Right.
probability.
So you just said that. You said maximum exposure is what's going to get you the best results. So we have a that's a capitalist, I guess.
to,
Okay.
to a degree, yeah, that's where it
Okay.
comes from.
All right, that's the first one you said. The other thing you said is quantity can be just as good as quality. So the opposite side of the argument is that when you date too many, are you really getting quality dates? It's see our biggest topic on this show is like modern dating, and what's the problem with modern dating? The problem with modern dating is that it's become a capitalist market. You said that
Right.
at the beginning, right? So
Right.
where for people to say this is the way you should date and you should date many at the same time, it's a capitalist mindset. Like
Yeah.
we've moved away from the romantic mindset of wow, you're getting to know someone that you should really put a lot of effort into that, not necessarily like spread yourself out too thin. So you've kind of agreed with it, which is kind of funny because you tend to be the opposite. You're like, you don't I don't think you're an anarchist, but I think that you're against capitalism in some cases.
So I think there's bounds of reason, right? Like if we get into politics, I'm immediately going to be like, yeah, freedom for everybody. Do whatever you want, and you would think, oh, he's an anarcho libertarian, like he just believes in the Constitution and do whatever you want to do, but within reason. Like I don't think you should have the freedom to take someone's life. That's insane. So we move over to dating, and okay, we could talk about quality, but just because you're dating one person at a time, does that necessarily equate to quality, or are you just lengthening the discovery process and really digging into one person to see, well, can this work? It doesn't necessarily mean the person you're dealing with is quality. I think another way of looking at it is, okay, if I'm dating, trying to get to know 10 different people, I'm getting greater exposure and I will get to a quality match that much sooner. I think, and I think it comes down to your dating methodology, and are you asking the right questions? Are you vetting properly? That's kind of how I look at it as well. So not just sifting through the sand, so to speak, but what is your methodology as you go through that process?
Right. I think
So,
that this is what watered down dating experience. It makes it feel very interviewish,
mm,
where and a man, tell me if I'm wrong, a
mm,
man won't invest past 3 dates if he doesn't get any type of affection. So
mm,
okay, let me rephrase. A man is apprehensive about investing in a woman who's kind of guarded if she's still guarded after the third date. So what I mean
mm,
by guarded is like she's withholding something. Like she'll go out with him, but there's no kissing, there's no hand holding, there's no hooking up. And I think the modern dating world has a very cut out, plan. 3 dates and sex. That's it. Like that's the plan. If you don't do that, then it's like, oh well, he's not that interested in you. I've seen women who do this and I've seen men who do this. And I'm like, wow, when did we get here? Like when did we get to this? 3 dates and you're out. Like when do we get to that? When do you think that happened?
Wow. Again, yeah, going back to capitalism and commodifying like that dating experience. And again, I think that again, how we work and live is so integrated that we expect that if I put in X amount of effort or X amount of units of energy, I should get said result. And I get for a lot of men that is going to be sex, but for some men it could be confirmation that we're moving forward and you're the only guy I'm talking to or the only guy I want to deal with, or it could be kissing or whatever it is. Yeah, that result, like what he's looking for. And I also think a part of it is because guys talk too. We tend to be a little bit more tight-lipped, but we definitely gossip with each other, and word gets around, and we'll see a woman, and it's like, well, we know for a fact maybe that woman had sex with a guy after one date or no dates, and obviously maybe she felt something to him or was very attracted to him. So now I'm going out with her, and it's been 5 dates. So my mind is like, does this woman even like me? Does this woman even see me as anything serious, or are we just buddies and I'm paying for everything? Because I could go out with my friends and at least we'll split. I don't have to cover the whole cost. And then you have your past dating experiences as well, where again, I've been on dates where no date and I slept with a woman. One date, I slept with a woman. I've been on a date where the woman paid and then we end up having sex later. So you have these past experiences too. And I think one thing resonates, those women like me. So if a woman is not even talking about sex by a third, fourth, fifth date, you're wondering, does this woman even see me in that way? So I think that's where that hard and fast rule comes from, where again, I said it before, the min max. If I want a certain outcome and my previous experience has taught me that outcome is attainable, of course, and it depends on her feelings as well, and I'm not getting that result, now I have to ask myself, am I wasting my time?
All
And
right.
if a man is wasting his time, dating is expensive. Let's keep it real. What's the average cost of a date? I think you looked it up. I looked it up. What is it like? The national average is like $180 or something. For New Jersey, it's higher because we live in New Jersey. New Jersey, New York, California, very expensive. So imagine shelling out like close to $200 for 3 or 4 dates, and you don't know where you stand with the woman. I think a lot of guys are looking at that and saying, "Nah, I'm not. I'm not too interested in that." I think that's where that comes from.
There's
Just
a
a
lot.
bunch.
There's a lot that you said there, so I want to break that down. So, the economics of dating. That's really what this is like. We're talking about economics, capitalist ideology. We're applying it to the dating market.
Hmm.
And so the interesting thing for me is I am a woman who I date with a funnel. Like I basically date multiple people at the same time. I'm not overtly in your face about this though. Like if a man asks me, hey, are you dating another person? Are you dating multiple people? I'll gingerly say yes or something like, sure, I am talking to multiple people. Like when he's asking me that, it's almost like I feel like it's an insecurity
Hmm.
um, that he doesn't have the wherewithal to kind of win me over, or he's the opposite of that, which is that he gets frustrated with that statement and then decides not to make the investment because he doesn't want to compete. So the comparison that I have to this is I am in real estate. You mentioned in the beginning is like when a buyer finds out that a house has multiple offers.
Hmm.
The buyer sometimes says to me, "Hey, I don't want to offer on that house because I'm not going to get it." And as a realtor, I have to ask them. It's like, well, we absolutely don't get it if we make no offer. You understand that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like, if you don't put yourself out there and to pursue, you're not getting that person regardless. So regardless if it's $600 that you made an investment, $200, or let's say $50 yet, or no money because you just said that a woman paid for you on the date, you're still not getting the opportunity to get to know them unless you make that investment. So I know that, people have that philosophy, which is that they're either going to make an investment based on their odds.
Hmm.
Everybody's always doing relationship math. Like
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
what's the return of intimacy, the ROI? What's the return of sex? What's the return if it's important for a man or a woman? What's the return that I'm getting here as a result of making this investment? We have to stop doing that. I
Mm,
date with a funnel, but I date based on the fact that at 43, which is my current age, I prefer someone that I have common interests with.
mm,
And it takes me about 3 to 4, maybe even more, like 3 months to figure out, do we have consistent common interests where it's not just based on physicality? So I'm at a different stage in my dating. Like I mentioned it in the show in the beginning, where
mm,
when I became newly single at 38 years old, I did not want a relationship. So I did about 2 to 3 years of casual dating. Everybody
mm,
was okay with that, except for 1 or 2 people who were kind of upset. But otherwise, everybody else was cool with it. So I already did the friends with benefits stage. I already did the casual dating. Now I'm in a more intentional dating phase. And in
mm,
that phase, I don't apply the economics principle. I look more for quality. So like I might not be as physically attracted to someone, but I'm willing to get to know them because I need to know whether or not there's long-term compatibility with them.
mm,
So my comparison to this is like sometimes I might date someone that's um not traditionally my type. So here's what I tell you. I like beards, you know that. I love a man that has a beard. It's just one of those things. It is not the tattoo and it's not anything like that, anything else, but it's the one thing that I'm attracted to when I see someone is their face. So
mm,
for me, I need facial attraction. If I have that, then I move forward. So body doesn't matter to me as much. Like, but I do know that I am not someone who gravitates towards someone who's a really heavy set type of person. And the reason why is because I'm more physical. I like doing hiking, I like being out and about. And someone of that size, to me, perceptually, in the beginning, I feel like they're not going to be able to keep up with me.
mm,
Right. So that is the only two things that I know that I'm sensitive to. But I still get to know people and I see whether or not that there's a connection that could lead to something more engaging other than just the physicality. Because I had a lot of the physical for like 4 years. I was like, all right, great, great physical, but that didn't mean that that's going to lead to a long-term relationship. So that's how
mm,
I'm approaching dating. So I am dating with a funnel with multiple people, but I'm not doing it for a return on investment in the short term.
mm,
Everybody always thinks about this in the short term. They're like,
mm,
oh, if I like this person 2 to 3 months, everything's gonna go well. I'm looking for like my forever person. And in
mm,
that, I know that I have to like take my time with it. That I can't just, you know, accomplish that in a set time frame. It's gonna be about feelings. It's gonna be about something that's gonna be more meaningful than, hey, after 3 months or after 6 months, I know I want to be with this person for the rest of my life. That's insane to me, that idea. Like I feel like if a relationship goes 3 months, you're on a good path. 3 months,
mm,
no drama. In the group that I'm in, the women preach that. They're like, in the first 3 months, if you're dating someone, he doesn't confuse you. You know where you stand, you know where he stands, and you're respectful to the fact that you both might be dating multiple people at the same time. But then at the end of 3 months, this is what they're teaching, by the way, there should be some kind of conversation towards an exclusive relationship. Where now between 3 months and 6 months, now it's just you two, and you're building your connection a lot stronger. This I agree with. Like at some point, you do kind of like your funnel dwindles down, and you start to focus, right?
mm,
Now you're doing home inspection on your person. Now you're doing an appraisal on your person. Now you're doing more investigative work on your person. You're meeting their family. You might meet their children, maybe. You might see their home. So at that stage, now you're bringing in more of your vetting. So
mm.
your vetting is not just in the beginning.
Mm.
Your vetting is ongoing.
Yeah.
A lot of times people think vetting is just I'm going to ask 6 questions, how they answer, and now it's going to take me the next step. No. They can answer those 6 questions, but guess what? Their actions have to also prove that those 6 answers were correct. So I've had plenty of people that say, hey, "Oh, uh I'm not going to shit on the Uber industry, but a lot of single dudes drive Uber." And I'm just like, what does this mean? Like, are you like, do you have a
They
career?
like to drive Uber.
Like, do you have a career? Did you go to school for anything? Do you have a passion? If someone says to me, I have a significant passion for being around people and I love to drive, I'm like, cool. All right, cool. I get it. Yeah. But a lot of these dudes that I meet are just passing time, making extra money. And I'm just like, well, what happened during the day? What happened to your normal business hours? Did you have any? So
Mm,
that worries me a little bit. Like when I meet someone and there's no vocation, like there's no passion in their life outside of I want to have sex tonight, I want to meet this woman, that they're so you tell me this all the time, that men are very mission orientated, right? They're like,
Right.
oh, I really want to meet this woman and I want to have sex with her, so I'm just going to focus on her. I'm like, I need you to have other things in your life, and that's important to me. But understand where I'm at in my dating. I'm not in this 38-year-old mindset. I'm 43. I'm trying to get into a forever relationship, and in that relationship, I care more about your soul, like your everything that is about you, not just your job and what you're doing in the meantime. So you said a couple things there. I do date with a funnel, but I date intentionally, and it's based on commonality. That's what I'm looking for. So not quantity. Um, I do have a question for you once you have a minute to respond to what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
I struggle with the who invites who, and I struggle with who pays for what. But
Mm.
we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. But what do you think about in terms of dating multiple people? All right, comment on what I said, basically.
I'm gonna know what you said. Okay, well, one thing you said that, and it's rare for me to say this, but because a lot of times, and we see this plenty of times where the woman's like, I need this or that, and this like terms of physicality or this type of career or whatever. You seem lax on those things, and it's rare for me to say this, but if a guy having a beard is one of the very few things that you truly care about, it's like I think more than half of all men are capable of growing a full beard. I don't think that's a big deal for you to have that. If that's that your one like quote unquote market limiter versus the average person, which might have like 3 or 4 like severe market limiters. I don't think it's a big deal for you to hold on to that if that's
I
really
have three. I gave you
okay.
one. All right.
Okay. Okay.
So one is that if they have a beard, I'm immediately attracted. I don't let me not these grandfather, long, I'm gonna trip over my beard. No, I
Lumberjack.
like I like tight to the skin. I like,
Got
design like and then maybe it was because the men in my life when I was a kid had that. My father was a guy with a beard, my brothers had beards, like so it was like I was exposed to it early. So it was like
right.
I saw a lot of that. So like when I'm dating someone right now and he doesn't have a beard. So
Gotcha.
it's like
Yeah, as long as it doesn't affect your attractiveness level. It's if it was more something that's magnetic, like to and pulls at you immediately, then yeah, that's fine. As far as like the general concept of dating with a funnel, yeah, I do it. And again, as I said before, naturally people will fall off as you have conversations with people. You'll find out deal breakers. You'll naturally find out thing incompatibilities. Those people will fall off, and maybe they'll be friends, maybe they'll just be acquaintances, maybe you never speak to them again. I just think you will, and using that word a lot, naturally gravitate towards those who are similar to yourself, and you gravitate towards people that you feel that connection with. And I think that's what it comes down to. So you mentioned like you're not dating for an outcome. And again, if we just focus on
short
what
term. I'm not
hmm?
dating for a short term outcome.
Short term, short term. So you're not saying, okay, I need to him to throw me on this bed and do some work by like month 2. Fine. But if you're letting things happen naturally, that may very well happen anyway. When you both feel that connection and it happens. And I think that's why we put these parameters on ourselves, because we're like, it hasn't happened by now. I really want it to happen. I'm really attracted to this person, or I really like this person about this, or I really like this person about that. And then, of course, egotism gets into it as well, where it's like, am I not good enough? Why hasn't this happened? Why hasn't this milestone been achieved? So we put these markers on as a way to say, like, I'm worth this. My time is worth this. And if I don't have this by this time, by this junction, I'm out. And that can be self-defeating. So I think it's like that fine line that Zen means balance. It's finding that balance in all things. So in dating, it's having the investigative knowledge to vet properly, but also not being so caught up on an outcome that you put certain stipulations, and being able to go through that process in an even tone. It can be complex, but at the same time, it's not. You just kind of like let it flow. Not to say there's anything wrong with standards. And if you feel in your gut that you're wasting your time with someone, I say just have a conversation. I just say, hey, if it's been 2 months and you're unsure, you could just ask that other person, hey, how do you just feel about this scenario? And if that person freaks out, hey, maybe you're not on the same page. And you take it from there.
So I like what you just said, which is that like even though I'm saying I'm not dating for an outcome, I am, right? But mine is a long term. So when you're vetting people, I hate the word vetting, but when you're getting to know people, you got to think about, or you have to pay attention to how they think. Are
Mm,
they are they really asking long term questions or short term questions? Like
mm,
here's some examples of some short term questions that I get a lot. Do you live alone? Are you do you have any kids? Which is actually that's a good one. I like that one. But I feel like a lot of the times men are trying to establish could they have sex in my house, right? So they're
mm,
figuring out who do I live with, and is there someone that's going to prevent me from like being able to come to your house? So they're like,
mm,
oh, who do you live with? I'm like,
mm,
why is that important? That's short term thinking. So
mm,
like I think that there are certain questions people ask that show what their mindset is on right now. And I want to actually help you with one thing.
mm,
When you do know about someone's sexual history, let's say I talk about mine a little bit more transparently. You know about my sexual history. You know that I was casual. And with you, if I'm dating you, for example, and I take it
mm,
slow, you said in the beginning that that worries you a little bit. And I'm like, why would it worry him? Like, why wouldn't I be able to transition like to a slow moving relationship versus me having relations super fast and that being unhealthy for me versus going into something a little bit more purposeful. So you react
mm,
to that saying, "Hey, if she doesn't hook up with me the way that she hooked up with that guy, then that means she's not into me." No, it just means that maybe her mindset is different. So you have to be careful about how you judge people. So what you do is you ask questions that show, is this person thinking short term or long term? And
mm,
that helps you more than figuring out, are they alone? How often can I see them? Because these are some short-term questions because people
mm,
need to know, whether or not that there's going to be a viable connection. Now, okay, so the other thing, okay, that I want to help you with, because I think I'm not sure if you struggle with it, but when you come off too cavalier, I've heard some feedback, okay, that Marcel dates a lot of people. And when he dates a lot of people, sometimes women don't take you seriously because they're like, he'll just go to the next one. So
mm,
when you're too cavalier about the fact that, yeah, you don't matter to me until you do, it's the same example that we gave in the beginning. There are multiple offers on you. There are
mm,
multiple women who are gravitating towards you. So
mm,
sometimes you have to give people the perception that, hey, I'm going to invest a little bit more in you, and you're one of few people that I'm dating. So whenever someone asks me the question, are you dating multiple? Yes, but I'm ginger about it. I don't give them specifics. If they ask me for specifics, then hey, listen, I don't really need to know that information. Not about you, not about me. We're just not there yet. Let's not let that hurt our fun or our potential to kind of grow into each other. So
mm,
like when a man is asking me, about my specifics, I'll just push it back. I'll deflect. I'll use a sales technique. Just
mm,
be like, hey, we don't need to know that about each other just yet. Let's just have fun and get to know each other. That's it. Let's just have fun. That's a key phrase. Fun for a man means something different than fun for a woman.
right.
Fun for a woman would be like, let's go have coffee and walk in the
And do
park.
experiences. For
Yeah.
women, it's experiences. Yeah.
It's a different phrase versus for a man, he's like, yeah, let's go have fun. I'm ready. I'm like, no, that is not what I mean. So I don't know, I feel like there's room for us to learn something in this new market, this new dating market. And what we learn is that sometimes we can't apply economics and it doesn't and you have to operate on a feeling and take a leap of faith. Invest in this person. It might hurt. That's okay. You've hurt before, So I think the biggest hurt that's going around right now is the love story that you may not get 50 years from one person. Because that
Right.
was the love story of our whole entire life, that you would be with one person for the rest of your life. Once you fell in love, like true love, like maybe you had your puppy love when you were a lot younger. Once you got to a point where you were going to get married, you were only going to get married once.
Mm,
No, like a lot of people are having multiple love stories. They're having three marriages. They're having, multiple relationships. So we're not celebrating that in our culture, and we need to, because not everyone is getting 50 years, one person's lifetime. And that was something that I had to contend with. Like when I broke up with my ex, I had to give that up and say, you know what? I'm not going to be with him for the rest of my life. That's okay. There are going to be other people that come into my life that I can love. So,
mm.
um, yeah, but I'm gonna shut up because I do a lot of talking, and I know I could take the conversation like different levels. So
So yeah. For me personally, when I talk about men, I'm literally just talking about how men think overall. And it could be 80%, 80% of men, 70% of men, whatever percentage you want to use, like how I know the majority of men are going to think based on my connections with men, based on my conversations with men, based on my own experiences. Now, for me, when it comes to sex, I don't bring up sex because I have learned that women are the ones that we can talk about equality. Cool. I'm male. A lot of the time, I'm probably thinking about sex. There is no point in me talking about sex. She knows I'm thinking about sex. I will let her bring up sex. Um, and in my experience, if a woman likes you, you never have to bring up sex. She will invite you. She will invite you to her home. She will make a play. And if she's frustrated that you haven't done anything, she will eventually voice her annoyance. That has been my experience. So I've learned, how old am I? 35? I've learned before half my life is over that, yeah, when a woman wants you, you don't really need to bring that up. That's been my experience. I would actually tell men to practice sexual discipline. And if you have that connection and she's attracted to you, you don't need to worry about when it's going to happen. It's a foregone conclusion, and you can focus on going on dates and getting to know her and having those conversations and forming that connectivity, and just go from there. What was the other thing? Oh, Marcellus Cavalier. Right. And that just 100% comes from when I did focus on one woman, a lot of time it would just fall off. So that's probably more of a defense mechanism where, like, yeah, I'll date different women, and I'll give you an example. When I was during the lockdown, my girlfriend had broken up with me, and I went through my phase where I was like, okay, it is what it is. I'll get through it. Maybe 2 or 3 months after that happened, I really started branching out, and I used Facebook. I would hit different women up and say, I think you're attractive. I showed you one message where I wrote something nice, and she was like, that was the nicest thing someone's ever said to me. And we started talking. She was one out of maybe 20 different women I had messaged. And maybe from that time period to a month later, I was only talking to, I think, 4 or 5 women at that time. So those women either didn't respond, or some just naturally fell off after 1 or 2 conversations. And you kind of get used to the sting of, you go from thinking I'm not good enough to I don't meet their standards, or they don't meet my standards, or we're not compatible. And men naturally just kind of develop this thickness around their heart where you just kind of get used to it. So I would say it's harder for me to not be cavalier. Like, I would have to really ground myself and focus on, okay, not focus so much on the methodology, and say to myself, all right, let's enjoy these conversations and see where they go. Because what's that one song? I forget about the artist. I've gotten too good at saying goodbye. Like, I've gotten used to being rejected. Again, that's the experience of a male, to be rejected. I'm going to get rejected the vast majority of the time. So some women say you're very confident. Some women say you're very cavalier. I would say that I'm just used to being told no. And it's just a natural thing that's going to happen. I fully expect it to happen. I more expect to be told no than I expect for a woman to give me a good morning text. Like, that to me is more of like, it's been 3 weeks. I'm probably never gonna hear from this woman again. We had a good run. We had some good conversations. Good morning, handsome. Oh, what? Huh? You good? Me? Oh, great. Okay. So yeah, Cavalier is one way to look at it. And if
So
that's how
stop you for 1 second, because you actually said something that proves that everybody dates with a funnel, even you. Like, because as soon as you broke up with someone, you were in COVID, 2 months later, you started hitting up multiple women. That's your funnel, right? You have multiple people that you're making contact with, and then you're figuring out who actually shows interest, right?
Absolutely.
And then that's who you continue with. Now, the way that you just said that women, she hit you up and says, "Hey, handsome." What that means to me is, like, there wasn't enough of the connection in the texting that got her to want to say that. Because I feel like women don't initiate good morning text messages.
Generally,
We don't. Partly because there's two camps for this. The first camp says, I'm not interested in sending these messages, nor am I interested in receiving it, right? There are a lot of women that say that they hate these bullshit messages, good morning, good night. A lot of them, right? And then there are some women who say, I don't mind them as long as I'm in a relationship with someone. So, like, the fact that you're doing it pre-relationship annoys someone, because there's an expectation that you're asking for them to reciprocate. So it's almost like you're looking for the commission before you actually invest it. So like
Mm,
a woman is not likely to send you a hey good morning text message. She might gingerly like try to continue a conversation. That's actually
mm,
more of currency. That's more currency. That'll get you a lot further. Is if you, instead of asking her about your day, is that you share something about your day,
mm.
or share something that you read recently, because it creates conversation. It creates a reason for her to like continue the conversation. But usually, if there's a hey handsome, the connection has gone cold. That's what we call it. Like basically, I didn't follow up with my lead, and now the lead is cold. So I have to
Mm.
send a hey
Check
straight,
back in. Yeah.
hey, hi, how are you? Like all of that means that you didn't follow up with your lead. So if we're using the economics of it. So in your case, we're in a small dating market in New Jersey, right? We're both part of a Facebook group that focuses on singles. The feedback that I've heard, and maybe this helps you, is that
Mm.
you're too transparent about you dating multiple people, and some women don't want to be one of many.
I think that's I think you're
And what-
fooling yourself. I'll
I'm-
be honest. I think you're
I've heard
fooling
that
yourself.
in reference to you. Like,
No, no,
feel
no, no, no. I think no, not you, no, not you specifically. I mean, like you, like the universal you of like human beings. You're fooling yourself if you think you're the only in the beginning stages. If you're a month in, 2 months in, I have no problem with someone assuming, oh yeah, it's just me, or at the very least, I'm in the lead. But if you're literally just if you're talking to if I'm talking to an attractive woman, I would be a fool to think I am the only man that thinks she's attractive. So it's better for me to just assume that she's talking to multiple people, um, and not let that phase me. Um, if a woman questions me, and yeah, I have offered that information up just because I am extremely transparent. I'm that's my buy-in. I'm just not. I just have nothing to hide. And again, if a woman says that's not for me, I'm like, yo, go in peace. Like, let's be cool. Because many of those women, they still talk to me. They still see value in the things that I have to say, and they still seek advice from me. I'm more than happy to help them and give them the tricks of the trade, and help them succeed. And I would ask if I need advice, I go to them for advice sometimes. I go to you for advice sometimes. Give that same credence to me. If I help you, please help me. I have no, and again, the cheat code is I have no problem being friends with a woman because women will help you find a woman. Women will, help you sharpen yourself. Women will help you grow your reputation. So I don't really have an issue with necessarily being rejected now, especially now that I'm a little bit older and I kind of understand the game a little bit better. And a woman absolutely has a right to say, Marcel, that doesn't fit my standard because he is cavalier and he is dating multiple people. I'm happy that you have that standard. You should date someone that one of my friends, we're still friends now, but we were very compatible. And it did bother her that I was talking to other women. And I said, okay, cool. We're still friends. We're still attracted to each other, but she's dealing with her own stuff. Do I look back on that and say, you know what? Maybe I should have done that sometimes, but then I think, but I'm still me, and I was true to myself, and this woman is still in my life, and I can text her at any time. I can not talk to her for 2-3 months and then text her, and we'll get into a nice conversation. And did I really lose anything, or am I that much closer to getting someone that I connect with that much more? I think that's just a matter of perspective.
All right. So Marcel, our time is running down, but let's try to do the two episodes in one. Like, we'll get on again and we'll try to record because I feel like we're finally getting to something. As you mentioned sexual discipline, so I want to hear what you think that is for a man. Like,
Hmm.
and you kind of glazed over it, where you're saying, don't think about it. She'll initiate, she'll invite, so let her do all the signs.
Hmm.
Um, so I want to talk about that a little bit more once, the time runs down.
Sure.
So everybody dates with a funnel. So we
Hmm.
should just accept that you're one of many, but many has a different definition for certain people. For me, it might be one of three people. I usually become saturated though. I don't have a lot
Hmm.
of free time,
Hmm.
so I know that I'm not going to be able to handle more than three at a time. So I might have conversations with people, but actual physical dates, I'm probably only doing one or two,
Hmm.
maybe max three. Because after three, I just don't have the time for it. So
Okay.
that's kind of like how it really breaks down in terms of the economics. Um, and free time is a big deal for people because people our age have children. People our age have other commitments like elderly parents that they're dealing with. So someone who's a millennial or younger, or between like 25 and 35 may not have the same challenges as someone who's 40 or 45. And
Mm.
that's just a 5 year difference, like 5, 10 year difference. And it's a big difference, in terms of the generations. But any parting thoughts for this last segment, dating for funnel?
I don't know who's watching this, but Marcel is not dating anyone right now. Okay, I just need y'all to know I started a new job. I'm focused on that. My schedule just changed. I work from Affinity, and our whole hours are changing, so everything's changing for me. So I need y'all to know that I'm not dating nobody right now. Okay, but I just want to throw that out there. I don't know who's watching this, but I just want to put that out there. But yeah, no, definitely. And I want to say that I didn't used to be that way. I used to be hyper focused on one woman. I used to kind of believe in that fantasy. Like, I'm gonna give this one person everything, and they're just gonna see how amazing I am, and it's gonna be great. And it's just not real life. Sometimes that'll work, sometimes it won't. And I just don't see the disadvantage in kind of, throwing multiple stones in the river and creating those ripples and seeing what happens. And sometimes you strike gold and sometimes you don't. And most of those ripples don't lead to anything. And that's normal and natural and expected.
Yes, I think we have to do two things. One is accept that we're not one of many. It's just the natural state of life. The other part is we do have to celebrate different love stories. That it's you might have 8 years with someone, you might have 15 years with someone, and because it wasn't a lifetime doesn't mean that it wasn't a failure.
Mm.
Like I feel like I see that a lot in like people who get divorced. They're really down on themselves. I'm like, you're
We,
probably
we
gonna
can talk about that. The definition of what is a failure or a relationship. And I have a very specific definition that I can give. That's gonna be an interesting conversation because I see that a lot. I got divorced and but I don't think my marriage was a failure because I had children. And my immediate thought is you need to be married to have children. That's a contingent upon, granted, you had your children within your marriage, but humans can have children without marriage. I would say, what was the quality of your marriage? Why did you get divorced? Did you get divorced simply because you grew apart? I can accept that. But if the marriage was toxic and abusive, would I still call it, and then you got divorced, would I call that a success? I don't think I can. But
let's talk about this in the next segment. It's gonna run.
okay,
Our time is gonna run down. So I'll
you got
start
it.
at the beginning.
Okay.
All right, I'll hit you back up with another invite.
Okay, you got it.
All right, bye.
See you soon.
So.